I think we might be reaching an inflection point, ladies and gentlemen, and it is not a good one. I've been hearing more and more people talk about the fact that they go out shopping, specifically shopping for groceries, and they get in there and they are noticing that there are people in the grocery store that are not able to afford the food. I was watching a video from The View from Appalachia just the other day, and I kind of relate with a lot of the things that he says just because I'm kind of in the Appalachia area. I'm in Kentucky. And he was talking about how he went to the dollar store, mind you, and he witnessed a lady in there that was actively shoplifting. She was buying food for her kids, and he noticed it, and instead of calling her out on that, he actually walked up to her and gave her $40. I mean, that's empathy. That's the kind of stuff we need more of in this world, because I think a lot of people are being pushed to the breaking point right now. A lot of people are very, very stressed and stretched financially, and that is because the cost of everything keeps going up. There's a major problem with the job market right now, and people are just having a hard time affording essential goods, basic items and necessities. And that's the key thing here, is necessities. It's not even the stuff that people are just splurging on now, which has been the case for a long time, and I'm sure that's still going on. But when people can no longer afford the things that we need to survive, things like food, and especially for this woman that he witnessed that wasn't able to provide for her kids, that is a very, very bad situation. And I think this is only going to get worse. And while I haven't witnessed this personally in my own life, I did witness something at Kroger the other day, and until I watched his video, I didn't put two and two together, but I think it ties into this. I think it's all related. So I went to Kroger because they have Tillamook cream cheese, which is a great cream cheese. It doesn't have a bunch of the garbage in there that Philadelphia cream cheese has and some of the other brands. So I buy that specific brand, usually when it's on sale. So I happen to be in town. I stop by Kroger. I go in there. I get my cream cheese. I walk out to the parking lot. And there's a couple in a car. There's a woman standing outside that car, right at the entrance, mind you. This is like the first spot you come to. And they were in like a knockdown drag out. It wasn't like a fist fight, but it was a completely unhinged screaming match where they were just yelling at each other, cussing, and causing mass chaos. To me, it seemed like mass chaos. And the craziest thing about this is that nobody flinched. I might have been the only person that was just kind of like, what the heck is going on here? Because I'm not used to seeing that kind of stuff. In my rural town, way out here in the middle of nowhere, it's just not a common thing to see. Now, I've traveled a lot in my life, and I know people go crazy. I've witnessed that stuff all over the world. It does happen. People fly off the handle. Sometimes they get completely unhinged. But to see that in my rural town, where stuff like this doesn't normally happen, I think it might be a sign. And the fact that it happened outside of a grocery store also makes me wonder if these people were in there shopping, they realized that there was nothing in there they could afford, and it just, all the added stress and stuff builds up inside these people until eventually they fly off the handle. So I wonder if it's related. And I can't say for sure whether it is or it isn't, but it seems awfully coincidental that it's happening at a time where things are so unaffordable and people are resorting to going into dollar stores and robbing them for lunch meat. And I can't help but think that this might be a sign of what is to come, because I don't know if y'all saw this, but I watched a video from Andre Jick, and he has some really good breakdowns on the state of the economy, the state of the conflicts and stuff going on, and he really dives deep into that stuff and helps people understand why things are happening and what the future might look like based on those things. So I was watching one of his most recent videos, and within one day, it got over 2.5 million views, which I think is amazing, because that means people are taking notice to what is going on. But what he was talking about was the fact that the Strait of Hormuz has not actually been open. It apparently has been closed this entire time, and what they've been doing is manipulating the messaging and manipulating the numbers by saying that the price of oil is this when it's actually that, the physical price is that, it's something much higher, so that it reduces the impact so that we don't experience oil shock, where the price just skyrockets through the roof and we all suffer overnight. But one of the most significant things he talked about in that video was the fact that one of the reasons they're doing this is so that investors can manipulate the stock market, short the stocks, and basically become filthy freaking rich right before the messaging is put out and the stock market goes one way or the other. These people stand to make tons and tons of money. This is the current state of the world. This is the reality that we all now exist in. Whether we like it or not, we have to live in this environment where all these things are happening, where it's no longer about the people, but now it's about money and it's about greed. And it doesn't matter if families have to go into dollar stores and shoplift to buy food for the kids. It doesn't matter if there's people outside of Kroger screaming at each other. It doesn't matter if people walk into the grocery store, realize there's nothing they can buy, nothing they can afford, and walk out empty-handed. None of that stuff matters anymore. What matters is everything else. Greed, profit, money, the lust for money. That's the big problem. It's not about money, it's the lust for money. And that lust apparently is an insatiable thirst that these people cannot quench. So here we are. This is the situation that we found ourselves in. And it's no fault of our own. Everybody's out there trying. Everybody's trying to make a buck. Everybody's trying to make ends meet. Everybody's trying to put food on the table. But there are a lot of people now that are not able to do that. And people are taking notice. There are more and more people noticing and probably experiencing the fact that we can't afford basic items, essentials, things that we need to survive. And when I think about these situations that we find ourselves in, I also like to think about how we can prepare and set ourselves up to be in the best position that we possibly can to weather the storm, to ride it out. And I'll tell you a few things that I've been doing. So I find myself actually hustling more lately, just so that I can make sure that I'm secure for the future. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I do think it pays to be prepared. But it's kind of a bad situation when you have somebody like me and many other people that have left work, that have walked away from the 9 to 5 so that they can live a slower, simpler life and find themselves reverting back to hustling more. And something else that ties directly into that is that I am also making sure that I require as little as possible when it comes to pretty much everything. When it comes to money, when it comes to buying stuff and what I need to basically survive and get by, I'm just making sure I don't need that much. I'm trying to reduce my expenses as much as possible. They were already pretty low. Actually, they were already very low, but I'm reducing that even more. I'm not buying hardly anything. The only thing I'm buying is stuff that I can resell, basic essential items, and that's about it. And something else that also ties into that is I'm selling off a lot of stuff. Pretty much everything that's not nailed down, that is no longer serving me, I'm getting rid of. I've got a couple things laying around that I haven't used in a while, so I'm selling it. I'm trading that stuff in for cash. And essentially, I'm just trying to build up as much cash as I possibly can so I can be prepared for the future, so I can weather the storm and ride this out. And also find myself making my own stuff. So if there's something I want, instead of going out and buying it, I either buy it secondhand or I buy the material needed to make it, and I make it right here at my house. And there's a few things that I've built recently for my house and for my homestead from secondhand goods and stuff that I bought on the cheap, and it has saved me thousands upon thousands of dollars. So for the stuff that I actually want and that I don't necessarily need, that's one of the steps I'm taking. And it's a crazy situation that we're in, that this is what we're having to resort to. But I think as this situation progresses, these things are going to serve me very well in the very near future. And as a matter of fact, they're already serving me very well right now, even with the situation that we're in. And it's probably not as bad as it's going to get, because if things continue, and based off of Andre Jick's video, where he talked about what the future might hold, we may not realize the impacts of this strait closure until the second half of the year, maybe the last quarter of the year. And what he was saying is that it could get very bad. The price of everything could go up because of the oil shortage. Because when the oil runs out and all the reserves are used up, that begins to trickle down. And it's not just about the fuel for our vehicles. It trickles down to the food supply, to standard goods and services, and basically everything in society. Because if you think about our society, it is very much a petroleum-based society. Everything hinges on it. Plastics, transportation to move product around. All of this stuff is going to be impacted. I'm already seeing people talk about the fact that there might be a food shortage in the very near future. I'm seeing people talk about the fact that there might be energy lockdowns. And all these things, when combined, it could be a very, very sketchy situation. And there are actually countries that are already implementing these things. So how long is it before us here in America or people in other countries all around the world start experiencing the same things? If we're already seeing people that are walking into the grocery store not being able to afford food, what is that going to look like 6 months from now? What's it going to look like a year from now? I mean, heck, what's it going to look like 3 months from now or a couple weeks from now? I guess time will tell. But when it comes to situations like this, I really do think it pays to be prepared. I think it pays to start taking steps now to secure yourself for what could be a very, very bumpy and rocky road ahead. And I do fully acknowledge the fact that some of the steps I'm taking right now to secure myself for the future probably aren't the greatest, especially when it comes to things like building up paper money. Because with the way things are going, is that paper money even going to be worth anything? Maybe, maybe not. Again, I guess time will tell, but worst case scenario, if I've got stacks of paper money, at least I'll have something to burn when the winter comes. But with that said, and understanding that there may in fact be a very real possibility that paper money isn't worth anything in the very near future, that's why I'm also trying to diversify my assets and diversify where my money goes. I'm putting some of my money into appreciating assets, things that I know are going to go up in value over time, regardless of what the economy and what happens with inflation and all the stuff that's going on around us. And I'm also investing a lot of money into myself to build the skills I need to, again, weather the storm. Anything and everything I can do to secure my future and put myself in the best position possible is exactly what I'm doing. But I really want to hear y'all's thoughts. So leave a comment. Let me know if you too have been witnessing this. Where do you think all this is headed? And what are you doing to prepare?